Meg Cabot, When Lightning Strikes, Chapter 13. It wasn't all bad news. The good news was I no longer had detention. Pretty impressive, right? Girl gets psychic powers, girl gets punishment lifted, just like that. I wonder how Coach Albright would feel if he knew. Essentially, I'd pretty much gotten away with punching his star tackle. That's gotta be a kick in the pants, right? In the midst of beating myself up over the whole Sean Patrick O'Hanahan thing, I spared a thought every once in a while for Miss Clemmings and the W's. How was she going to handle Hank and Greg without my help? And what about Rob? Would he miss me? Would he even notice I was gone? I got my answer after lunch. Ruth and I were making our way towards our lockers when suddenly she elbowed me hard. I grabbed my side and was like, "What are you trying to do? Give me a splenectomy? What's with you?" She pointed. I looked, and then I knew. Rob Wilkins was standing by my locker. Ruth made a hasty and completely obvious retreat. I squared my shoulders and kept going. There was nothing to be nervous about. Rob and I were just friends, as he's made only too clear. "Hey," he said when I walked by. "Hey," I said. I ducked my head, working my combination. 21, the age I'd like to be. 16, the age I am. 35, the age I'll be before Rob Wilkins decides that I'm mature enough for him to go out with me. "So," he said, "were you ever going to tell me?" I got out my geometry book. "Actually, I wasn't planning on telling anyone." "That's what I figured. And the kid?" "What kid?" But I knew. "The kid in Pale. Was that your first one?" "Yep," I said, and all of a sudden I felt like crying. "Really?" And I never cry. Well, except for that one time the FBI agents in Mr. Goodman's office. "You could have told me," he said. "I could have." I took out my geometry notebook. "Would you have believed me?" "Yeah," he said. "Yeah, I would have." I think he would have too. Or maybe I just wanted to think he would have. He looked so, I don't know, nice, I guess, standing there leaning against the locker next door to mine. He didn't have any books or anything, just that ambiguous paperback in his back of his jeans. Those jeans that were butter soft from the constant wear and faded in spots like at the knees and other more interesting places. He had on a long-sleeved t-shirt, dark green, but he'd pushed up the sleeves so his forearms, tanned from all the writing he does, showed. And, see how pathetic I am? I slammed my locker door closed. "Well," I said, "I gotta go." "Jess," he called after me. As I was turning to walk away, I looked back. I changed my mind. This is what I was hoping he was going to say. "I changed my mind. You want to go to the prom with me?" But what he was actually saying was, "I heard about the kid, Sean." He looked so uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to having these kind of conversations in the middle of the school hallway, under the unnatural glow of the fluorescent overheads. But he went on anyway. "It wasn't your fault, Jess. The way he acted that day, outside his house, well, I thought there was something weird going on with him, too. You couldn't have known, that's all." He nodded like he was satisfied he'd made every point he meant to. "You did the right thing." I shook my head. I could feel tears prickling in my eyes. Damn it. I was standing there with about 1,000 people streaming around me, trying not to cry in front of this guy I had a total crush on. Could there possibly be anything more humiliating? "No," I said. "I didn't." And then I turned around and walked away. And this time he didn't try to stop me. Since I didn't have detention anymore, Ruth and I came home together after school. We decided we'd practice together. She said she'd found a new concerto for flute and cello. It was modern, but we'd take a stab at it. But when she pulled onto Lumley Lane, I saw right away that something was wrong. All the reporters had been herded down to the far end of the street, where they were standing behind police barricades. When they saw Ruth's car, they started yelling frantically, taking pictures, but the cops wouldn't let them near our house. When Ruth pulled into the driveway, I saw the blood on the sidewalk. I knew why. Not just on the sidewalk either, but little drips of it leading all the way up to the front porch. Ruth saw them too and went, "Uh-oh." Then the screen door opened and my dad and Mikey came out. My dad held up both of his hands and said, "It's not as bad as it looks." This afternoon, Dougie attacked one of the reporters, who stayed behind to try and interview the neighbors. "They're both all right. Don't get upset." And I guess it might have sounded funny, my brother attacking a reporter. If it had been Mike who had done it, it would have been very funny. But since it was Doug, it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny at all. "Look," my dad said, sitting down on the porch steps. Ruth had switched off the ignition, and we both got out of the car. I went and sat down beside my dad, careful not to look at or touch any of the spots of blood around us. Ruth went to sit with Mike on the porch swing. It creaked ominously under both of their weights. Plus, Mike looked annoyed at having to share it. Only Ruth didn't notice. "It's not your fault, Jess," my dad went on. "But the reporters and the news vans and the police and everything, it was just a little too much for Dougie. Things all started to get a little haywire in his head, and after he left this morning, we thought we calmed him down. We got him to take his medication, and it seemed like he was okay, but the doctors say stress can sometimes—" I groaned. I laid my head on my knees. "What do you mean it isn't my fault?" I wailed. "Of course it's my fault. Everything's my fault. If I never called that stupid number—" "You had to call that stupid number," my dad said patiently. "If you hadn't called that stupid number, those kids' parents would still be wondering what happened to their little son or daughter." "Yeah," I said, "and Sean Patrick O'Hanahan wouldn't be sent back to his abusive father, and his mother wouldn't be in trouble. And you did the right thing, Jess," my dad said again. "You can't know everything, and Douglas will be all right. It would just be better if he could be somewhere a little quieter." "Yeah, but where?" I demanded. "The hospital? Doug has to go back to the hospital because of me? Nuh-uh. No thanks, Dad. It's clear what the problem is here. The problem isn't Douglas." I took a deep breath. The air was thick with humidity. Soon I knew it would be summer. It had grown steadily hotter all day, and now the late afternoon sun beat down on the porch, beat down on me. "It's me," I said. "If I weren't here, Douglas would be all right." "Now, honey," my dad said. "No, I'm serious. If I weren't here, you wouldn't have the reporters dropping Powerball wrappers all over the lawn, and Mom wouldn't be baking biscotti 24/7, and Douglas wouldn't be in the hospital." "Just what are you suggesting, Jessica?" "You know what I'm suggesting. I think tomorrow would be better that I do what Special Agent Johnson said and just go off to Crane for a while." Both Ruth and Mike looked at me like I was nuts, but my dad said after a moment's silence, "You do what you think is right, honey." And I said, "Well, I don't think it's right that this family should have to suffer because of me. And that's what we're doing, suffering. If I went away for a while, all those reporters and everything would go away, and then things would get back to normal. Maybe even Doug could come home." Mike said softly, "Yeah, and maybe Claire would open her blinds back up. She's been so freaked by all the cameras." When Ruth and I turned to stare at him, he realized what he just said. He clamped his mouth shut. Ruth was the only person who voiced a note of dissent. "I don't think that's a very good idea," she said. You're going to Crane? I mean, I don't think that's a very good idea at all." "Ruth," I said, surprised, "come on. They just want to do some tests." "Tests." "Oh, great," said Ruth. "So now you're a human guinea pig? Just Crane is an army base. Get it? We're talking about the military." "Geez, Ruth," I said. "Be a little paranoid, won't you? It'll be all right." Ruth stuck out her chin. I didn't know what it was. Maybe she had just seen Point of No Return one too many times. Maybe she just didn't want to have to face the halls of Ernest Pyle High School on her own. Or maybe she suspected something that I, even with my brand new powers, couldn't sense. Ruth is smarter than most people. About some things, anyways. "And what? And what?" she said quietly. "If they want..." "And what?" she asked quietly. "If they want you to find more kids." My dad said, "Well, of course they'll want her to find more kids. That's what this is all about, I'm sure." "Does Jess want to find more kids?" Ruth asked, her eyebrows raised. "They say that intelligence quotient tests only measure a certain kind of knowledge. Those of us who don't test well, for instance, me, comfort ourselves with the fact that, yeah, okay, Ruth has an IQ of 167, but she knows nothing about boys. Or, yeah, Mike's 153. But again, what kind of people skills does the guy have? Nada." But with that single question, Ruth proved that there wasn't anything wrong with her. Not anything wrong with her people skills, at least. Not for where I was concerned. She'd hit the nail straight on the head. Because there was no way I was finding any more missing kids. Not after Sean. Not unless I can be convinced that the kids I was finding really wanted to be found. Unlike Sean. Mike went, "It doesn't matter what she wants. She has a moral obligation to the community to share this, whatever it is." Ruth backed down at once. How could she take a stand against her beloved? "You're right, Michael," she said, blinking at him shyly from behind her glasses. So much for those people skills I mentioned. They're not going to make Jess do anything. They're not going to make Jess do anything she doesn't want to do, my dad said. We're talking about the U.S. government here. Jessica is a citizen of the United States. Her constitutional rights are guaranteed. Everything will be all right. And the sad thing is, at the time, I really thought he was right. I really and truly did.